Hi, my name's Imani Tomlinson, and this is my exam 2. And in this first part, we'll be talking about the ethical theory of cultural relativism. It can be defined as a person's morals meaning beliefs, values, and practices, and it's based on the understanding that within that owns person's culture, they are free of judgment and comparison to other cultural norms. Within cultural relativism, there are no universal truths. Morals are more subjective to one's own cultures. Different cultures may have different moral beliefs, and no one's morals are right or wrong. To further that explanation, I would say that, in simpler terms, cultural relativism is the idea that you must respect one's own culture and the culture of many other different societies, and that you have no right to infringe upon their own cultural beliefs to the extent that person is right within their own society as you are right within your own society. Within cultural relativism, there is an argument called the cultural difference argument. It states that different cultures have different moral codes, therefore there is no objective truth in morality. Right and wrong are only matters of opinion, and opinions vary from culture to culture. This argument it's known as an invalid argument because while within cultural relativism, you do have to respect the right of people's separate morality or beliefs or practices. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're right. This is why it's known as an invalid argument. For example, clitorectomies, they're something that is very normalized in African nations. And it has been proven that there are no medical or health reasons that makes it necessary, but it's still a cultural practice. And with cultural relativism, you have to respect that practice even if there are no sound reasonings for it. While believing in cultural relativism, there are 4 moral codes, and the first one is different societies have different moral codes. The second one is the moral code of a society determines what is right in that society. That is, if the moral code of a society says that a certain action is right, then that action is right, at least within that society. The third one is there is no objective standard that will be used to judge one societal code as better than another's. And there are no moral truths that hold for all people at all times. The fourth one is the moral code of your own society has no special status, but is one among many other moral codes. The fifth one and the last one is it is arrogant for us to judge other cultures. We should always be tolerant of it. These 5 moral codes just sum down to the way that one should practice cultural relativism, summing back up to that idea that we must respect all different cultural ideas and ideologies, and that we have no right to infringe upon any of them. While with cultural relativism, there are many objections. I'm going to name 3 of them. These objections, it makes it hard for cultural relativism to be completely something that can be applied. For example, we cannot judge the practices of other cultures as inferior to our own. With this idea, it makes it kind of difficult when there are certain societies that practice things that don't necessarily align with our own ideas. For example, within this objection, within cultural relativism, we cannot say Nazi Germany was any less moral than our own cultural standard. They were just different, which is obviously a hard thing to state. Even if you do believe in cultural relativism, the cultural differences argument kind of shows in this aspect because they can believe what they want, but it is necessarily invalid. We obviously don't agree with the ideas of the Holocaust, but within cultural relativism, we have no right to judge them for their own beliefs. A second objection is that we cannot criticize the practices of our own culture or society. We are not in the position to argue what is stated to be morally right within our own culture. If the moral practice of our society If that is what the moral practice of our society is, then that's it. It's right, which is obviously hard because it leaves no room for argument. It is what it is, and it has to stay that way. The third objection would be that the concept of moral progress doesn't exist. And this is the one that I most struggle with, that and the first one. To say that morals have gotten better or worse would be incorrect under cultural relativism. In the example of slavery, we obviously deem that wrong now, but at the time, there was no room to argue that it was wrong then, because that was the cultural standard or the moral code. And we can't say that it's gotten better over time because just now we're looking at it at a cultural lens. I think it's difficult to completely go all in with cultural relativism. While there are many pros of being respectful of all people's ideologies, it's also a very stagnant idea because it doesn't allow any room for deeper consideration that that's how it has to be. There's no room for anything else. And I think the biggest part of believing in something is testing those beliefs and arguing it to see if you truly believe it and if it's reasonably sound and everything. And that is my explanation of cultural relativism. Thank you so much.